Hi, hello, and oh wow. Hi, hello, and welcome to this new video on my channel. So today I'm just going to wrap up the month of June. So books, then movies and shows. There's not a lot, and that's going to be all, to be honest. So let's get going, shall we? Because I have to hurry a bit this time, since I have to leave, because I'm meeting a friend afterwards. Anyway. So let's start with the first book, okay? Which is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So it's about how do I summarize this book? So you follow Gideon, and she's part of the ninth house. So in this world, you have 9 houses. The first one being the house of the emperor, and so all the heirs to, so technically the 8, like there's since the first house is the house of the emperor, there's only like the other 8 houses are summoned to this sort of like space palace, and there's a murder and they have to solve it. And so Gideon, she is part of house 9, and at the beginning of the book she tries to just run away from the 9th house, but she fails, and instead so she strikes a deal with Harrow, who is the heir. Harrow is the heir to House 9, and so they go together, and Gideon takes, like, is supposed to pretend to be her, what's it called? Like, it's not bodyguard, but it's kind of like bodyguard slash partner in this thing. And so yeah, so I read this, I listened to a lot of it, and it was a buddy read with my mom. I gave it 4.25 stars. I really liked it. I think it was really it was, I don't know, the concept of it was super original. Like, it's not something it's not like a very basic fantasy or sci-fi book, you know. And it was a bit crazy. The world was a bit crazy. I mean, I enjoy murder mysteries and fantasy because I think like it's a great way to build your world. So this book has a very strange way of world building, which is there's no world building basically. Like, you never have a passage, you know, in fantasy books usually you have passages of like characters thinking, like explaining a bit, like, oh, this is how it works and blah blah blah. And there's none of that here. So like, you get into the story, they never explain the world to you, you have to figure it out. So I thought, like, so my mom, she thought it was really, you know, a bit jarring. I didn't mind it that much because I struggled to understand world building in books because I just go with the flow, and like I let my brain understand what's going on as I go. So that wasn't that much of a problem. And honestly, yeah, it was very originally unique. I can't exactly explain, you have to read it to understand that. But it's very gory, I have to say. So if that's not your thing, maybe skip that one. But I don't know, I thought Gideon is very funny character, I think. And she was quite entertaining to follow along. And same with Harrow. Harrow and Gideon have such a funny relationship. And I saw when one of the plot twists at the end coming. Like, I figured it out at one point, like maybe 20 pages before it came. I was like, oh, this is gonna happen, and it happened. So like, yeah, but it's still, I really enjoyed the series, and I will probably read the rest of the series. I think with my mom we're gonna read the series together. Not because it's way more fun that way. And since I'm a fast reader, I can just read the book and then explain things she doesn't understand, or like that don't translate well in her French copy. So yeah, it's, I don't know, I read that at the beginning of the month, so like I kind of not forgot, but it's kind of harder to explain now because so much time has passed. But I really finished it like on the 1st of June. So yeah, honestly, if you like more dark, maybe like borderline horror, I wouldn't, like, first of all, if you're like me, if you're scared, don't read this at night, because I'm a chicken, okay? So, but it was still very fun, and I can't wait to read the second one with my mom. I think we're gonna wait for like fall season, because reading that in the summer, it's a weird experience. Okay, so yeah, next one I don't have because I read it on Kindle. I read it as an arc. It's The God and the Gumiho by Sophie Kim. Give this one 4.5. So in this one you follow a god and a Gumiho. So you follow, what's her name? I forgot their name. That girl. She's the, I suck at names. Okay, so our main character. So yeah, I think it's dual POV if I'm not mistaken, and basically there's murders happening in town. So it's in our world, but like the city it takes place is a fictional city. It takes place in a fictional city in Korea in the 90s, I think. And you have this girl who is a gumiho, so she lived. So the gumihos in this, I don't know if it's actually like that in Korean mythology, but gumihos live for 1,000 years as foxes, and then they acquire sort a human form. And this gumiho we were following was actually responsible for a massacre during because she was hunting basically Jack the Ripper, and so she would kill men thinking they were looking for Jack the Ripper. And then you have a god who he's a fallen god because he's the god of trickery, I think, and he tried to overthrow his brother like centuries ago, and so now he's been banished, exiled to the earth, and he's trying to go back to godhood, and it's obviously not working well for him, and so murders are happening in town. So one is the gumiho's fault because she got assaulted in the street by men, and so she killed them, and so obviously like this reignite the investigation for her and like her murder streaks. And then there's another like bigger threat coming, and so steer the investigation in the wrong direction. The gumiho is like becomes the god's assistant, and but then this bigger threat comes in. I'm really bad at summarizing this book, okay, but I had so much fun. Like they had a lot of chemistry. It's a very it's fantasy, but it has a romance, obviously. The chemistry between them was really fun. I thought the investigation was also quite entertaining, and I didn't see a lot of things coming. The culprit, I figured it out before we got the plot twist again. But then there was another plot twist like for the ending of this book, and I thought that was really original and quite refreshing, because that's something I say a lot in books. Like usually you don't have, it's not a mystery how a book will end. So this one was I'm curious, really curious for the next book. I'm really excited. This book just came out, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to wait for a while. But it was nice to have a book that tried something new, even if it's not gonna appeal to the majority. Yeah, and both characters had a lot of good chemistry. I really liked it. I liked the more like secret identity thing. That's always fun because it creates a lot of tension when you read from like the person with the secret identity's POV, because I don't want their identity to be discovered by the other person, because then it's gonna create drama. And so it really, at least in my case, it really makes me root for the characters, and it creates some suspense, some tension, and I really like it. So again, 4.5. I want to get myself a physical copy of this book and try Sophie Kim's other books, because I really like this one, so maybe I'll like the other ones as well. Now, the book I don't really like, another arc, it's A Rivalry of Hearts by Tsonia Ode. It's my first book by them. I have A Curse of the Wolf King, something like that, like The Beauty and the Beast retelling. I have this one at home. And my thing is, I don't like cozy fantasy. I don't like it. And this one was very cozy fantasy. in a very Avatar-esque world. I think it takes place in the same world as her other series, like Curse of the Wolf King, something like that, and like the next one is a Cinderella retelling. But first of all, the world. Like as a publisher, can you publish that and be like, yeah, it's not at all plagiarism? Like, I mean, you have the exact same court as in Avatar. How is it? How do you write that and be like, yeah, no, totally. So I'm just, if you want to write in like a romancy, just create your own freaking world, not like something. And even the dynamics between the different countries and everything were the same. So like between the human territories and the Fae like courts, it was the same dynamics. So it's really annoying, and I'm like, how? And then again, the character at first, I was rooting for their relationship, and then I was just bored. Because since they just traveled around, so it's nice because you get to see a bit, like, you get to explore that world, but at the same time, I don't know. When I read fantasy, I want like fighting to happen, not just people publishing books, Is that like, if I don't know, the stakes were too low for my liking. I don't like low. If I read a fantasy, I like to have higher stakes, or like people can. If not, it's not interesting to me. I don't like it, so I'll try the other books that I have at home, and if I don't like that, I'll just go on my merry way and not pick up their books again, because it's not for me, obviously. Now, fantasy books that had stakes. I finally finished The Lord of the Rings. So Return of the King, no surprise there, I gave it 5 stars. I have a vlog for this book, so it's just me finishing series. And you have my like a fuller review there, but let's just say I love this trilogy. I love Tolkien's writing. I think it's just you're so immersed in that world, in that universe, and he's a mastermind at creating, fantasy worlds. And yeah, I can only recommend, especially for the summer, if you have time off, read this series, because you can really sit down and take your time to consume this book and get through it. And yeah, I absolutely just loved this one. I just have to say the ending for me was a bit slow. Like the last 100 pages were just wrapping up the series, and I get it because it's a trilogy, but I was quite bored. So I listened to it on audiobook. The audiobooks by Phil Dragash are amazing, and they're on Spotify. So if you're interested, they're free on Spotify, and the quality is better on Spotify than on YouTube. And they're just great because you have musics and voice effects and sound effects and everything. So can only recommend it to, at least for like the first half of the first book, it can be helpful because it's quite a bit to get through, So yeah. Next, another classic, we have Macbeth by William Shakespeare. So at first I was like, I'm gonna read it, just read it, and then I'm like, it's a play. What's the point of reading a play? So I read and watched it. So I watched a very old version with Ian McKellen, I think, and it was great, to watch it and have the text with me, because you can see how, a play, especially Shakespeare's play, are really just better on stage than just reading them, and it takes you like 2 hours. So yeah, what is Macbeth about? So you follow Macbeth. He is a nobleman in Scotland, and at the beginning of the play he encounters 3 witches who promise him a brilliant golden future as King of Scotland, and then he sort of takes it upon himself to realize that prophecy. I'm not gonna tell you more, because then like it's a very short play and there's no point, telling you more about it. But I thought it's very, I don't know if it's because of the adaptation that I watched, or if it's really, I think the text itself has this very atmospheric, dark, witchy, I guess Scottish, because for me, like, it's, you know, that medieval kind of dark, gloomy vibe. This is this play, and so the adaptation that I watched really rendered that pretty well because there was basically no like backgrounds. It was just a very dark background, and yeah, the actors were really great as well. So I really wanted to read that one first of all because the story was appealing to me, and then because there are quite a few Macbeth, retellings coming out this year. I'm not gonna tell you more because honestly, Shakespeare's play, I really like Shakespeare as a whole, but I think it's also way more interesting to study them in class. So this one is technically part of the program for the second year of college in my university. So in my university, this was the second year British Lit, part of the second year British Lit like syllabus. I hope it remains because I'd be super happy to study that one. And yeah. Then we have one of my most now we're just straying onto French books territory, say for one. But one of my most anticipated release for this month, it's Un été pour te retrouver by Morgane Moncomble. So it's the last book in a French romance series that's getting translated into German. Like the first two books are already out in German. So it's like a fall to forgive, something like that. I think that's the first one. And they're probably gonna, I hope they get translated into other languages as well because I really love it. And so this one, you follow the last girl of this friend group. It's kind of like Twisted Series, but better. And the last girl, so her name is Jasmine, and 3 years ago she broke up. I mean, her longtime boyfriend broke up with her, and none of her friends really know why they broke up. They did, and now it's one of her other friend, like one of her childhood friends is getting married, and she knows that her ex will be there, and she knows that her ex will be there with someone else, so she wants to bring someone else. She finds this random man and she asks him to come with her. Turns out this man is the cousin of the groom, so like he was already invited nonetheless. But yeah, and so I give this one 5 stars because what I was saying again is like romance books, they have a tendency, because it's a convention of the romance genre, to always end with a happy ending. So technically this one is not a romance novel per se. I still think, it's not because you don't end with that person that it's not you didn't have something, you didn't love each other. So I don't know, that ending really, I cried. Okay, there's themes of like also motherhood and grief, and I don't know, I just absolutely loved it. And I love that it was a very unconventional ending for this one, because it's kind of annoying to always have books end the same way because it's so predictable. And the characters were amazing. I just, it's just so, it was amazing. I love this so much, I can't talk about it, I can't explain, I can't. So just, if you can read this series, and especially this one, it's best to read the entire series because you see like all the friends and they're really a nice friend group to follow along. But this one is really my favorite, and I mean, absolutely adored it. So 5 stars. Now a DNF, it's The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. The reason why I didn't have this is because it was so similar to the previous one. I was not into it at all. So you follow 2 men who had a history together, and as they were like a few years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, as they were about to go on this trip in like France, Italy, and Spain, one of them just abandoned the other at the airport and to move to Paris and start is it as like pastry school, and so the other went back to the US, and now 4 years later, it's almost the end of like their little voucher lasted for like 48 months, and so after 4 years it's almost the end. And so both decide to go on this trip, and without knowing that the other will be there, and they meet up and things happen, I suppose. It's just that it was so similar, like in plot, in not exactly themes, but the setting was the same. So like France, south of France, Italy, that's all like Southern European setting. That was, my brain didn't mix the two too much, because they're in two different languages, so like it's not too hard to separate them. But I don't know, because I read the other one before, I was just constantly comparing them. Like the other one did it so much better. Like this one was just a very disappointing read. I think I did after around 25%, and I felt the characters were really immature and just whiny, and I did not care. So then I read a romance duology, a mafia romance duology. Again, it's in French. I'm not going to spend too long on this one because they have no translation available as far as I know. So it's Russian Mafia and Italian Mafia by Emma Bardieu. Those were originally published on Wattpad, and sometimes it shows. Okay, and I have a problem with this publishing company, is that when they take books from Wattpad, they don't edit them, and it shows. Because like the repetitions are killing me. It was worse in the first one, but the repetitions were just, no. Like, you don't need to explain to me twice how the mafia works in a span of 3, maybe 4 chapters. On Wattpad it makes sense because you read a chapter like maybe a week, and so having those reminders like 4 weeks apart isn't that big of a deal. When you read a book, that you can just delete that. It was 2 sentences. Just have to delete it and move on. And same like in paragraphs, in scenes, you have the same word repeated 3 or 4 times, and we have synonyms, especially in French, and French is a language that does not tolerate repetitions as much as English does. So it kind of took me out of the book sometime. The second one, it was not as bad in the second one, but the second one was too long in my opinion, so it got a little bit boring. Just real quick, in this one, the first one, you follow Sarah J. So she's the daughter of the godfather of an Italian mafia, and she was raised to infiltrate the Bratva, so the Russian mafia, and kill their godfather, like, so seduce him and kill him, because they have like less than a 10-year age gap, so they're quite close in age. And so she, with her childhood best friend, they've been trained and raised for this mission. And so we follow her as she's infiltrating the mafia, and then also falling in love with the godfather, because despite, having to kill him, she develops feelings for him. And so, yeah, I gave 3.75 stars to the first one and 3 to the second one. This one was just too long, like the middle part, maybe like, I want to say this was just boring, okay? I was bored, nothing. It wasn't, the first one was really, I was hooked, because you had like this tension building up because she has, so our main character, Sarah J, she's in hiding, so it's a very, like, again, it's a double identity thing, it's a secret identity, so like, don't want her identity to be revealed. And she was really into her mission and, killing people too, so, and she had like to gain the trust of the Russian mafia. So it was more interesting, I feel like, in the second one, when she was an established member of the mafia, and I felt the ending of this one was a bit melodramatic. It was still an interesting, like a good read as a whole. I just prefer the first one. The second one was a bit disappointing to me. So yeah. And I just wanted to talk real quick about the 2 books I'm reading at the moment. I'm reading more than 2 actually, but so I'm 1/3 no, 1/4 into a reprint that gave by Sabati here, but you're sitting on it right now, so yeah, I'm struggling to with those books. Like this series, the em.s.corner quartet is really good. I just don't know why I always start the books, but then like just not DNF, like maybe like soft DNF them for a while, then pick them back up, and they're always like great hits. Go figure. I'm also reading The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende. I have read like a chapters, like 50 pages. I'm just not in the mood for that kind of read right now. I'm more in the mood for romance because it's the summer, and summer for me is romance. But other than that, I'm almost halfway through Reputation by Lex Crotcher. It's really fun. It's the comparison at the bottom is like Bridgerton and Fleabag had a book baby. I haven't watched Fleabag, so I don't know what it's about. But you follow Georgiana, and she's from a more male class, if you can't call it middle class because it's Regency era. But like she's not from a very rich family, and so her parents left her with her aunt because they want to go on vacation in the countryside. They're not really, like, she feels very abandoned by them. And she meets like the upper society kids, like very rich kids, and she befriends them, but she's like feels a bit left out, and like discovers that those social rules she's been told to follow, they don't follow it, and so she's like, what? And so yeah, it's, again, you don't read that book for historical accuracy, but it's, I guess it's more reminiscent of maybe Gossip Girl and what else? I don't have other examples. I don't know if I guess it's a more European series, but like Elite, or maybe even Max and Hall. You know, you have like this more like middle class kid, like poor to those people's standards, and she enters this very like rich and privileged world of people who actually don't follow the rules they tell others to follow. So yeah, I'm listening to it on an audiobook mostly, but I'm having fun. So, and then yesterday I started The Right Move by Liz Tomford, so it's the second one in the Winnie Cities I think that it's a quartet. I think a fourth book has been announced. But yeah, in this one you follow Ryan and Indy. I already talked about this book in my summer TBR video, but again, I'm super excited. I read one chapter and I really enjoy Liz Tomford's writing style, and also this one is significantly shorter than Mile High, so I guess it's gonna be a little more fast paced, which it's something that people have reproached to the first one, which was that it was quite slow in the middle once they get together. But yeah, I'll try maybe to put like in a more update clip once I finish this, but I'm filming this video now because I'll be posting it on the 1st of July, but I'm going away for the weekend, so I'm filming this where it's Thursday, but like tomorrow I'm taking the train. So this book is not gonna last long, okay? So yeah, now I just want to talk real quick about the movie and the show I've watched this month. So the movie I watched was Sous la Seine. I don't know what they called it in English. So it's that movie about a shark in the Seine River in Paris. It was ridiculous. It was funny as hell. I watched it with my mom, and at first she was like, I don't want to watch something stressful. And I was like, Mom, it's about a shark in a Seine River. It's not gonna be stressful. It's gonna be ridiculous. It was very ridiculous, and yeah. I don't really have anything else to say other than it was a dumb movie. And then I watched Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2. First of all, let me tell you, I'm super excited for Francesca's season. And if people tell you otherwise, because like, I'm so disappointed we're not getting Michael, we're getting Michaela. I'm like, why are we always getting LGBTQ representation everywhere? Like, leave us alone. I'm like, you have enough representation. I'm like, this entire show so far, 4 seasons of the show about straight people. One sapphic relationship will not kill you. So other than that, you know, I'm not a big fan of Penelope and Colin. To me, it's very much like she became pretty and suddenly he noticed her, and I'm like, and when she started courting with, like, when another man started courting her, then he realized, oh, I like her. And I'm like, no. I also have some issue with her costume, because why is it that all the other like skinny actresses can have like the typical empire, like Regency dresses, Regency waist, like round with the boobs, but why does she, as a chubbier actress, has to have like, you know, a full-on corset, which is not accurate, historically accurate, and like those silhouettes that, yes, they look pretty on her, but it's just so weird. Like, why couldn't you just give her like a very, you know, just make her like the chest area fit her better, and then just have like the flowy gown like everyone else? Because now she's just dressed like her mom, which is very weird considering she's trying to emancipate herself from her mom. So yeah, and I'm excited for the other seasons. This one wasn't, I mean, nothing can top season 2 in my heart, but you know, even after the Queen Charlotte, that one was amazing as well. Colin, no. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next week with another vlog. Hope you find some good book recs. I've had a great reading month, so almost all of the books here I'd recommend, save for like 2, maybe 3. But yeah, and I hope you had a great reading month, and I hope I have a great reading month in July as well. So yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye bye.